we were laughing, and it was just like, we get him in, and but the door's not going to close. That day, on Monday before Charlie was killed, and I'm like, and so I immediately shoved my hand into the wound to stop the bleeding. I've been just trying to find the pressure. That day, on Monday before Charlie was killed. And
earlier this week on the Sean Ryan Show, Charlie Kirk's head of security, Brian Harpole, gave an interview that went immediately viral. His appearance split viewers in half.
And I said, I don't understand the exigency of why they did that.
In his delivery and shifting confidence. During his interview, Harpole describes an evening casually spent with Charlie and projects a picture of close friendship and brotherhood.
And just was on him almost face to face. And then when I was doing that, I went down, I could see the wound. And so
and the tendency to lower his head as he speaks. Such gestures are sometimes associated with defensiveness. In this case, however, it seems the gestures were habitual rather than topic specific. He also emphasizes his deep loyalty to his group, a quality shared by many in military and law enforcement circles. His language, appearance,
top of him, like close, and it was still coming out enough that I guess
talks about his correspondence with the campus police chief before the shooting. Harpole says he warned the chief that students had access to rooftops overlooking the event and requested either restricted access or a security presence. The chief replied, "I got you covered." During the interview, Harpole's body language shifts. His gestures become sharper and more forceful, showing clear anger and frustration as he questions why responsibility has not been publicly acknowledged. Overall, the interview is revealing about Harpole's emotional state and his communication style, as well as the pressure surrounding the security decisions left unanswered in the run-up to the tragedy. Almost every time he talks about something that angers him, you see it physically: a hard downward thump on the chair, a chin thrust, the body rising into a defensive posture. Those small, repeated movements aren't random. They're the language of tension and pre-conflict. When he asks, "Why hasn't this come out yet?" his lower lip tightens and the chin tenses, a mix of sadness and restrained anger. Then, as he says he is watching men lose their careers and he is okay with it, a slow blink and quick eyebrow flash betray his real emotion, disbelief mixed with bitter irritation. That quick eyebrow flash isn't surprise alone. It is a social cue of the campus police chief. Brian warned that students had rooftop access and gave two clear options: block access or let one of his guys go up there. The chief's response was, "I got you covered." That response is clearly ambiguous, where people's safety is at issue. Ambiguity is not a viable alternative. One doesn't assume, one clarifies. What he should have done was ask, "Do you mean you are going to send officers up there, or do you mean I can?" A final check before the event, a phone call, a visual check would have been elementary. And the story about the drone underlines that chaos. He says that his team couldn't fly because of airspace rules, that the local PD had a drone unit they never called in, and that someone else briefly flew a drone that day. His frustration is raw. "I'd have flown that drone up his ass if I could have." The body language, the conflicted emotions, and unclear communications put together create a picture of frustration, betrayal, and a glaring failure to secure clarity when it mattered most. While Brian speaks, his body gives away the truth. His chin lifts and his jaw tightens, and he began thumping the arm of the chair. His anger isn't hidden anymore, as frustration mounts because of the chief's continued denial of what went wrong. His lips are tight, but not from calm reflection, from a mix of sadness and fury. This is a man who spent years being the strong one, the calm one, the protector. Public emotion feels like weakness, something he can't allow himself. He even takes a drink just to reset, just to ground himself again before continuing. When he finally speaks, the confidence is gone. His shoulders shrug slightly as he says, "These were wounds incompatible with life." In that moment, you can see the truth. This isn't tactical stress anymore. It's the weight of failure, responsibility, and the realization that even doing everything right wasn't enough. What follows are frantic, desperate actions: packing the wound, lifting Charlie, ordering the car to go. With no time to shut the door, the train driver speeds off while Brian keeps pressure on the wound, praying for something to hold, something to save. This is not a man untouched by what happened. This is a man breaking in real time, trying not to let anyone see it. We were driving, and Charlie's so tall that his left leg was out the door, which wouldn't close. I was on my knees, half hanging out, trying to provide medical aid. He said, "We laugh about it now, but I couldn't reconcile that because Charlie didn't make it. The casual tone of such a tragic story didn't feel right." He also mentioned his team went to driving school. It was expensive, but it paid off because his guy drove like a champion that day. That last sentence felt out of place. The client didn't survive. Nothing paid off. A more honest acknowledgement would have been, they trained well. Justin drove effectively, but it wasn't enough. Behaviorally, his storytelling was surprisingly casual for such a devastating event. There is almost a bachelor party vibe in how he described being half, hanging out of the van while attending to Charlie. Yet, the lack of manipulative emotion is telling. He isn't trying to earn sympathy. He is reporting it straight. The most gut-wrenching moment is when I jumped on top of Charlie, when my phone fell and I couldn't call my kids or family. I knew this was temporary, but his kids will never reach their father again. That is the real weight of the tragedy. Human lives lost, permanent absences, and not my temporary panic. Ultimately, he will be fine, but what stood out was the contrast in his behavior. Whereas earlier he told the story of Charlie in the van, casually, doors open, butt hanging out. When he describes losing that phone and not being able to reach his family, the heaviness of such a moment takes over. Eyes tear up, tone heavy, words deliberate, compoundingly horrible. The difference in behaviors is striking. The human panic about one's temporary inability to connect weighs heavier than the casual telling of his client's death in the back of the van. When the vice president asked, "What do you need?" he responded without hesitation, "We need an autopsy now." Confident, with a calm tone and the tapping of his foot, he expressed himself assertively as if stomping his foot, calling out the misinformed, saying, "Go away." The small lift in the mouth and the shrug of a shoulder even showed disengagement with controlled exasperation. He is thinking carefully, softening while still standing firm. He also questioned the logic of paving over the crime scene so quickly, repeatedly asking people to march up to the school and file a FOIA request to get to the truth of the matter. His gestures, finger down, deliberate, confronting, reinforced his confidence and insistence that accountability matters. His blend of emotional weight, confrontational assurance, and insistence on transparency shows a person deeply serious, aware of the stakes, and refusing to manipulate emotion for sympathy. And the research again has shown that when the finger is up like this, it is a very confrontational gesture that causes the audience to disconnect. And the reason for this is because subconsciously it reminds us of a weapon, like a stick or a sword or something like that, which is why we very often see it with discipline. And in this case, it is not just a finger, it is these downward motions like this as well, which is very serious in tone. And at the end, he says that, people are just blaming the security team, but go get it for you, march up to that school. He is very adamant about this. And the whole time I am just sitting there thinking to myself, why don't you march up to the school and do exactly what you recommended? A lot of these people online, they're seeing these things that don't make sense and they're speculating, they're trying to put it together. Why would this be torn down so fast? And then they're trying to think, okay, maybe does the security team have some connection with this? They don't need to prove your innocence, but you do. Throughout this interview, we've seen him shift the blame on other people. And on numerous occasions, he has talked about how the career of his coworkers is compromised and how they're being harassed. But here, he is suggesting a way that people can go find out answers that would absolve them of the blame. But why not go do exactly this himself, right? He is saying here that if this were to be done, it would absolve the security team a little bit of having something to do with this, then go do it. And this isn't the only time he said this. There was numerous other points in the interview. He said the same thing, for example, about the autopsy, for those people saying it. Do a FOIA. Do it for you to the medical examiner's office to Utah County. Get off your lazy ass and do it for you. They may not give you the autopsy information right now, but they'll certainly tell you, yeah, there was an autopsy. That is the first one. But these are all things that he is saying others should do when he could do it himself, to try to get more truth about the case out there and try to paint a more clear picture. If he believes in these things, go get the FOIAs yourself and go show that there was an autopsy and that taking down of the crime scene was already planned. There was already a plan to do that. Okay? So at the end of the day, what do we have? We have a guy who is so focused on clearing the name of his company and his coworkers that at no point in this interview are we getting any accountability. There is never a point where he is saying, look, we have the training, we have the qualified guys, but something went wrong. It is our fault, and I am eternally sorry. He is so focused on not looking incompetent that he looks both incompetent and unapologetic. And let's make something very clear. Just because he is convinced that his group of friends are loyal and that none of them would ever do anything nefarious, it doesn't mean that that is the absolute truth. His behaviors certainly indicate that there is a lot of loyalty within that group, but ironically, it makes it very easy to pull a fast one on him. Now, I am not accusing anyone of anything. Let's make that very, very clear. All I am saying is that his confidence in his team doesn't represent reality. It represents his perception of reality. And because he is so convinced that they're so close and they know everything about each other and they're all pro-America Christian, have no affiliations elsewhere, he is locked into that position. So behaviorally, yes, he is very confident in the loyalty of his group. And when he denies outside affiliations, the confidence is pretty high, or I would say pretty standard with his baseline. But when it comes to competence, when it comes to their performance that day, we're seeing that stress spike as he tries to shift the blame, and he is a complete mess. And he has got even things that are completely inconsistent with the effectiveness of his job, like those drones or the security of the roofs. And he is furthermore proving to what extent they dropped the ball, and he knows it. That lack of confidence is very specific to their performance, but let me know in the comments what you think. What were for you the biggest inconsistencies in the way that he was retelling some of the measures that they took? Can you make any sense of those odd lines that he said every now and then that I was struggling with? And finally, what do you think he could have done different for this interview to come off more positive for him? Is there anything that he could have done? Or is it simply, given the circumstances, given the fact that the world knows how colossally him and his team messed up, that there is no way that he could have done anything in this interview to come off? Well, let me know in the comments, and I will see you on the next.